everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Disembodied Beard, John, Existential Spirit, Justin, and Kiki just walked away. Kiki? She's like, nah, maybe later, okay. Hello, everybody. Dogfather, we went off, the stream flipped over yesterday before I could say thank you, but thank you for number 20. Thank you for number 20 review. Oh, Kiki wanted to bring you her ball strap. That's right. That's what she wanted. Her double ball strap, actually. She went to get a toy for you, everybody. Yeah. Wow, you're special. Look at how special they are, Papa. Yeah. Ball strap. Good girl. No teeth. No teeth. You know better. Yeah, we're getting down we're really doing 0% on the teeth these days. No mouthing at all. Yeah, no mouthing at all. Come here, Papa. Come here. You want one game of ball strap, real quick. Huh. Come here. Get it. Come on, grab it. Now pull. Can you grab it? Can you pull? You gotta pull. What are you gonna pull? What side do you want? Make up your mind. Which side? I keep switching sides. Oh, pull. Come on. You can do better than that. Oh, you've only got one fang on it. Oh, no. Oh, come on. She's like, I just want this to go on forever. I don't want to be exiled. You're a good girl. Good girl. Get it. Pull. Yeah. Good girl. You won. Good girl. All right. Now she wants to play more. All right. There you go, Papa. All right. Woohoo. Yay. Good. Sweet. No. Okay. It's work time, Papa. Work. Yeah, I tried to train her that when we use that, that's time to work. Yeah, work is no fun, Baba. Hi, you're a good girl though, okay? You're a good girl. Can you go settle in shoe for a while? Yeah, I'll give you scritches. You're a good girl. This is a good girl who's not biting my arm. And I said, very good girl. Yeah, we'll give you brushings later. Yes, good girl. Oh, so yeah. So thank you, Dogfather. I was like, oh no, I have to type thank you because the stream went, oh no, and then you were gone. So yeah, 20 reviews. I even posted on my self-published Reddit, and it got like a huge exposure. Like it was like tons of upvotes and all this stuff, which is great. I really like the self-published Reddit. Like it's full of people who are pretty clueless, but it's also got some real pros on there. And when the real pros like drop some gems, you're just like, oh, I didn't know about that, you know. So it's really actually I like that community. I like it better than the writing Reddits. Like the writing Reddits, everybody's like, I want an idea for this, or I need a name for blah, and I'm just like, no, I'm using that energy for my own books. Like it doesn't seem like they talk about like. They don't talk about process as much. It's like everybody's just talking about like their own thing, and they just need help with ideas or help with X or Y, and it's like, oh, it worked, good. But yeah, so I don't know. I tried the fantasy writing Reddit, and I'm just like, no. For some reason, I really like the self-published Reddit because people talk about all sorts of things on the self-published Reddit. Although mostly it's nuts and bolts and marketing, advertising, websites, mailing lists, all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's fun. I like it. So I like that they upvoted me because it means I'm part of the community. It helps me feel like I'm part of the community. It's so cool. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's always nice when you feel part of a community, right? Everybody who's in this community, the Reaper community, the greater Reaper. If I had more hands, I'd do more finger hearts. Instead, I'm just going to do various finger hearts from various angles. 100%. Yes. Right. So now you guys get how I feel with the self-published Reddit. And I like forums. Like I always have kind of liked forum communities. So Reddit's kind of my jive. I like it a little better than Facebook, which can be hard to find things on and kind of, kind of evil. It's a little evil. But yeah, but I still have my author page on there, and I'm going to post today. Because yesterday I got dragged into stuff. So like, I ordered my print proof of my book, my second book. Yeah, it's gonna be coming to me soon. I hope Amazon like actually gets it to me within like 5 days or so. Usually, when you're an author ordering a proof book, you're getting it at cost, and so Amazon does not give you 2-day shipping. They're like, you're already not paying full price. We will not give you Prime shipping. It's pretty evil. But anyway, so I have to wait for that. But yeah, so it's good. But the other thing I decided this morning, and what I'm going to be trying to do heading forward, and I'll make a post on this on my Patreon. For those who didn't know I have a Patreon, it's patreon.com/paintingbig. And I went back and looked through the whole thing, and there's so much stuff on there. There's so much stuff, guys. Although I did notice a couple things I had not yet covered. And I'm going to be making a post kind of to ask if anybody has anything particular that they want me to cover on there that either I covered a long time ago and they would like a new take on it, or I just haven't covered, because it turns out, guess what? I've never covered red hair on there. Who knew? Not really, anyway. Only on the paint along did I cover red hair, and that's not good for everybody. So yeah. Sorry, allergies, Quindy. I'm very stuffed up today. Lots of congestion. But what I was thinking I'm going to do, because you guys know I have my YouTube and that Fundamentals of Mini Painting series that I've wanted to finish for a while, right? So I figured out that what I should do, or what would be a cool idea to do, is essentially to do this fundamental video, like I'll do my layering one, and then essentially the $2 tier gets a PDF of that video. So they get the companion PDF of that video with stuff. And I think that would be a pretty good way to both still put up videos for that series online, which anybody can watch. Although if you are a member, you will get to see them first. If you are a patron. Hi, Kiki. Good girl. Good settle. But yeah, so then I would be able to do a companion PDF for the $2 tier, and that would be cool. So yeah, then I get two birds with one stone. Yeah, it's very, very allergy-full today. Oh my god. Ugh, Kiki. Is it your fur? Is it your fur in my nose? Is it? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time. But yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it really is. It is allergy day here, I think. Ugh. I'm sitting here going through the Kleenex. But anyway, yes, that's what's going to be going on my my $2 tier, which is so cheap. So cheap. Because I wanted all the poor college students to be able to learn along with everybody else. But yes, that's what I'm going to be doing on the cheapest level of my Patreon coming up. But yeah, it'll be fun, I think. I'm looking forward to getting more YouTube videos up. I like YouTube as a platform quite a lot. So, all right. What are we doing on Jolie today? I think it's time probably to block in more of the gold, huh? We are slowly blocking in everything on her, and I am thinking about what color I want her hair to be. I'm going back and forth between kind of a strawberry blonde and kind of a brunette. So I'm still thinking, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I swear it. Where is my NMM Gold Shadow? There it is. Oh, the apartment, the fumes. Ugh. Paint fumes. Hey, I know paint fumes. Although, to be fair, a lot of the paints that we used at Reaper were very low fume as far as it went. But yeah, I think I actually need to close this window because I think the spores are coming in and they're just trying to consume me alive. And I don't want to be sniffling at you guys all morning. Oof. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and once it gets in, it's just like kind of trapped there in an apartment, right? Apartments have that problem where they don't get a lot of great airflow through the apartment. So it can be hard to get rid of smells. All right, I'm going to use NMM Gold Shadow here. It's a little darker, and some of this gold is next to the cream. So I kind of just think I'm going to be doing that. This is normally I use rich leather. But you can see the big difference between these colors. NMM Gold Shadow actually is also very good for bronze because it is much colder, and the rich leather is much brighter. But I'm feeling more the NMM Gold Shadow for a base coat, and what I will often do is use this for a base, but then I'll switch to this, mixing this into my yellows to bring that base up to a more vibrant color. But both those colors, and I used to use a lot of also Uniform Brown 9127 before rich leather came along. That was a good NMM base color as well. Yeah, it's already like really hot. It's also really hot, right? And that just, yeah, that makes it all bad. I'm sorry, Quindy. Sorry you're dealing with that. But yeah. So there's plans and stuff and things. Oh, and I should be streaming this weekend. No reason I wouldn't be. And we're going to be working on Comic Book Org. I guess I have to sing his name this morning. I didn't know I was going to do that, but we're working on him. We're going to continue. We're going to probably do the face and the arm, and get more into the comic book style. Get more colors on Mr. Orc while I have time before ReaperCon. I want to get Mr. Orc like to a decent level. A lot of paint on him by ReaperCon, or a fair amount of paint, because I want to work on him at ReaperCon, but I want him to like have enough on him that he's fun to look at, you know. You know, that's all about it. Like, actually, I watched a cool video yesterday by a lady who does a lot of work with mindset and writing. And, of course, as we all know, a lot of that has the direct effect on mini painting. Like, it's totally correlated. But, Dogfather, that is absolutely the mindset that she said to keep, that you're enjoying what you do. Because, and this is cool, she talked a lot about neuroplasticity. All right, and for those who are like, whoa, big word, like 10-cent word, that's essentially the ability of your brain to change, the ability of you to change your brain so that, you know, you may, like changing the way you think about things, right, is key. And she mentioned that a lot of people, like a lot of writers, will be like, oh, writing is so hard, writing is so hard, writing is so hard. And the thing is, your brain believes what you tell it. And so the more you repeat that, the more it's actually going to become real for you that writing is hard or painting is hard. But if you can shift the dialogue and tell yourself, I'm really enjoying this. This is fun. I really love this. I'm so glad I have this hobby, or I'm so glad I do this, right? If you can shift that mantra and say it to yourself consistently, and whenever you notice yourself going back on that old crappy, you know, this is hard routine, just shove it out and right away say, no, I'm having fun. Even if you're really not that much, say it. Say it to yourself. Even say it aloud. I think saying it aloud actually is better. Because sometimes thinking it isn't enough. And if you're alone in the room, you're not even really talking to yourself because nobody can hear you, right? You can always say you were talking to the dog. Talk to the dog. Tell the dog that this is so much fun. But yeah, so like when you find yourself kind of despairing, or maybe you're striving for like maybe the wrong thing, right? Like maybe you're like dissatisfied because your work isn't like at the level that you think other people might want it at, like go and rebrand your brain, like kind of tell yourself, no, focus on the things that you enjoy about painting and the whole reason you got into this hobby in the first place, right? And if you do that, like you're just going to have a lot more success at having a happy mindset toward the hobby, and that's going to actually help you get better, because when you do that, your brain relaxes, you're able to access like your memory and your like, you know, you're thinking about the hobby, and when you do that, you get better, like inadvertently. Like it's like the happy road to success. There's a whole book on it out there apparently that I didn't know about, which I got actually yesterday to listen to on audio, because you all know I'm like taking the self-help bullets for you. You don't have to like actually listen or read to a single self-help book, because I'm going to read them all and I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to tell you the parts that apply directly to mini painting, and this is one of them. And another one of them is, hey, and Korniko, this one is for you. Are you here, Kuro? Or is this the day Kuro has to work? Yes, putting your bed in. Yes, good morning. Oh, crap. Because I actually thought of Kuro last night. And this was actually part of her presentation that made me laugh out loud. Because she's like, she puts up a picture of her dogs, and they're like, and she's like, this is a photo of my dogs. And then she's like, when you come home, your dogs are like, ah! She's like, that's the way the people in your life should be about you. Like, the people in your life, your people in your circle, right? Your circle of friends, or your circle of like, you know, buddies that you hang out with and things like that. They should like be like, they see you, they're like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Yeah, awesome, let's rock. You know, let's go have fun, rah. And if those people aren't, if your circle is not like that, get another one. But I love the dog. Like your circle should be like your dog. And you know what? I thought it was funny and way too over the top. Oh, and the second thing was, now I'm not telling everybody to leave their husbands. But I'm just saying. And that just made me lol. That totally made me lol. But then I realized that that is true. Like, I do have friends like that. I have friends where when I see them after a long time, they're like, you know, like, I have friends like that. And even friends that when I send them a text, they're like, so happy, obviously so happy to hear from me, right? So it's true, you do have people like that in your life, right? And those are the people that you really enjoy time with. So she's like, just spend more time with those people that make you feel like you can jump over the moon. Like, make you feel like you're awesome. Like, that tell you you're doing a great job. Like, spend more time with those people. And if you've got somebody in your life that really is just like, you know, you show them a thing you did and they go, or they go, oh, you did that? You know, which is the same as a slap in the face, really. You know, like, find different people. Strongly consider either spending a lot less time with those people or finding different people. Oh, Mike Squill, sorry. Yeah, that's good, Dogfather. But she pointed out that when, yeah, sorry guys. Sorry, I don't know. I thought I fixed my mic. I thought I had it actually sourcing the correct thing. It says that it's sourcing the Yeti. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why my mic is squealing. Maybe I need a new mic. It has been around for a long time. Maybe I need a new Yeti. It could be that maybe it's just having issues. Sorry about that. Sorry for your ears. But anyway, so what she pointed out is that your brain is all very fight or flight, right? You guys know that. Like, your brain is always looking for different things, right? And it's very focused on the negative, because if it notices the negative, it keeps you alive, right? If it notices the tiger in the grass, it keeps you alive. And your brain just doesn't understand that we don't have tigers in the grass anymore. Well, we have our critical people. And the critical person for your brain is the tiger in the grass. And so when somebody like throws that at you, that, you know, like, oh, I guess, or, you know, that kind of like just non-committal response, you know, or that kind of like they're actually surprised you did something useful, that actually is a tiger in the grass. Your brain doesn't read that as positive at all. Even if there might be a little eke of positive to get out of it, your brain sees that as a tiger. And that kind of brings you down, right? Brings your energy down. So yeah, surround yourself with people who are your cheerleaders, really. And that doesn't mean you can't take constructive criticism, right? But you have to be aware, Kiki, no ma'am, leave it. Pardon me, Kiki is like trying to eat stuff. Out, you're done, exiled. Exiled, you put mouth on a book, you're done. Yep, you're a good girl. Go and chew, though. She brought me every single one of her toys plus a chew. Hold on. It's work time, Papa. Work. Yep. Yeah, because you know dogs, they'll just like find something to try to fake chew on because they know they get your attention that way. Yeah. Could be cable. I checked the cables the other day, but I could check them again. Thanks, Warshadow. But yeah, so it's not that you don't want constructive criticism, but you got to go into it knowing with your brain that, okay, when somebody says even something vaguely negative, I'm going to have that response. But I need to just keep myself calm and like just, you know, just take notes on it in a way that won't be hypercritical, but that'll help me move forward. And if you're great, if you have good people, they'll phrase it well when they tell you. You know, they'll do something like, if you want to make it even better, you could try this, right? That kind of thing. And when you're giving, okay, so I want you guys to remember this when you're giving miniatures critiques. And this is why I always ask people, do you want me on easy mode or do you want me on hardcore mode? Because the person that wants me on hardcore mode is going to have prepared their brain and they're not going to immediately see tigers when I tell them things they could fix. But the person who comes to me and they're in easy brain, they're going to see tigers everywhere. They're already seeing tigers everywhere. They're probably self-criticizing themselves to the moon. So, don't give people tigers. Be really enthusiastic about the things that they are doing right. And if you want to give them, like if there's just one thing that's really bugging you on the mini, don't say, this is really bugging me. Say, if you want to make it even better, you could try this. But otherwise, it's a great mini. Keep going, right? It's a great effort. Go, go, go. So, because that's what's going to lift people up. And if you want, and you get asked for critiques a lot, and at ReaperCon, a lot of people do, they're like, can you take a look at this? Right? And so ask them, do you want me to really, really be hard on you, or do you want me to just kind of look at it and give you my impression? And if it's just kind of look at it, then go cheerleader. Go cheerleader on them. And if it's I really want the criticism, then you can go and, be constructive. But it's so important how you phrase stuff. And at these cons, we all get asked a lot, right? We're sitting around these tables with our friends from online, and we're trading, tips, and we're showing everybody our minis that we painted during the year, and it's super exciting. But try to keep it on an upbeat thing. Try to be a cheerleader for your friends, because chances are, all during our lives, every day, we have a lot of people in our lives who are not being our cheerleader. So when we go to these conventions, the more cheers we can get, just the better life feels. And I want everybody to love ReaperCon and be really happy at ReaperCon, right? That's really makes such a huge difference in the temperature of the room. So just wanted to share that with y'all. Here's your morning self-helpery. Mini painting self-helpery from Anne. Yeah. Yeah, bots, but you know what? For people like you who are at a fairly, I assume you're at a fairly high level with your painting at this point, because you've done what you can with lower level critique. What my husband and I tend to do also is, we aren't asking just everybody for critique. We usually have a couple of people that we ask, and we know they're going to be honest with us, but they're not going to be nitpicky with us, right? And they're going to have good questions for us. So, for you, that's probably more valuable to actually find a couple of painters above or at your level that you can give, that you can get that kind of critique that you need, because when you ask a new person for a critique, you never know what you're going to get. Some people are really nice in person, but then they are hyper critical on critique, really hard, and I from that. I really, when I ask for critique, what I really want is, if I was going to fix one thing on this model or change one thing on this model that you think might make it better, what is that thing for you? And it might be that I don't agree, like you say, right? But I want to know that thing. And if I hear that thing from more than one person, then I'm going to start thinking about it and say, okay, maybe. Or maybe I'll be like, okay, but on my next model, I'm going to think about this, right? Which is also really useful. Also really useful. Oh, yeah. Right, but people do that, and they do it subconsciously. You're right, she doesn't mean it, but it's part of that mindset. It's kind of part of that mindset of it can be a little bit of subconscious jealousy sometimes, where, they're kind of channeling or putting a kind of transferring, but you never know. And sometimes it's just the way they grew up. Most of the time, your mother-in-law probably was growing up and having that crap from other people. And that's why she internalized it, right? And if we don't ever think about it, or nobody ever calls us out on it, then we don't know. We just go on with our lives giving that sort of compliment, because that's the sort of compliment we're used to giving. Yeah, because the better way to put it would be oh, you look, that shirt looks great on you. Really, really looks slim. Great job, that kind of thing. Instead of, you'll look much thinner than you usually do, right? That kind of thing. Ugh. Slayer, if you're coming to ReaperCon, all of us artists, a lot of whom are judges, are sitting around in Artist Row, and if you ask us for a critique, we will give it. I will usually, since I know I'm judging, I will usually say, are you in the con? Are you in the competition? Okay, then I'm not going to critique your model, because I'm going to be judging it. So, but there are plenty of artists that are not judging, so there you go. Or if you're doing something like a vehicle, I don't judge that category usually. I usually judge painters. So that kind of thing. But yeah, and after the competition, after you get your piece back, or if your piece is just sitting there on a shelf, you can absolutely, I usually tell people, just bring it to me Sunday. because Sunday is like kind of a blasé day. Everybody's winding down. Reaper's starting to break down the con. I've usually got a line of people waiting for critique, but there are always painters available to give you a critique. Yeah, right. A peer who you are familiar with who's going to look at things. Yes, exactly. Exactly. David and I both do that. David and I both have people we do that with. Yep, yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it useful. And sometimes you decide to, and sometimes that perspective makes you think a little bit differently, and sometimes you're just like, you think differently about it, and you're like, nope, I'm still going my way. And those are valid, right? Because you still have to paint your way. You got to paint the way it makes you happy. But it is valuable to sometimes look at it from a different angle and go, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that it's a lot more attainable, and I actually do it with my editor. I did it with my developmental editors, Agent Marvel, for East of the Sun. I was like, what I really want from you is one or two things that I'm doing really well, and then one or two things that if there was one thing I was gonna work on or two things I was gonna work on, what are those things that I should work on for the next book? And that they gave me that information, and I stopped doing some of those things in the next book. I kept an eye out for it, right? Because in my rough drafts, of course, I'm just going to write. But yeah, I find that the most useful, because the problem with critique is that sometimes once you start, you don't stop. You're gonna just say a whole bunch of stuff, but that's not helpful to the painter, right? Because the painter's just going to get overwhelmed, and they're going to forget maybe the most important thing. So usually I try to focus on just like one thing, maybe two. Yeah. Because if it's a model, if they're just like at an intermediate level, you're probably going to find a lot of things that could improve. But try to think, well, if there was just like one thing that would make this model like instantly level up, what is it? And it might not be like, it might be a hard one. Like they might say you need to improve your blending, and that's going to take a lot of work, right? That's a very broad improvement. But at the same time, it could be valid. So that kind of thing. Or something that requires a big mindset shift, like you need to really darken your shadows and increase your contrast. And that's a long road, just like getting in the mindset of like learning what to look for and then learning how to execute on it, right? So some of these one thing to fix can be a thing that could take you all of the next year, until the next con. But that's good, right? It gets you on that road toward improving your stuff. Yeah, right. Yes. Your eye improves, and your eye improves faster than your brush. That's something that Ira Glass talks about in that the Gap speech that I'm always telling you guys to go read. Because you get into it because you love models and you love well-painted models, and you're like, I'm going to try to paint something that I'm really happy with, right? But the problem is that your eye, especially if you get out there and you look at some of the great stuff on Putty and Paint, you look at, really good paint jobs, even on the Reaper Discord or wherever, and you're just like, wow, that person's miles ahead of me. I love it. Your eye learns to look for that stuff, but your brush is really far behind. And it even takes your eye time to realize how they did it, right? Like that kind of thing. Because you can see something cool, but not realize, okay, what makes this cool? Like, what are they doing? Right? What exactly are they doing? That takes time for your brain to catch up to what your eye is seeing. And then your brush has to catch up to the brain and learn how to execute. Yep. And just understand that. Understand that it's a process. And maybe the best thing if you hit that hyper is to say, show me an example, or can you demo for me real quick? That kind of thing. Some people have even had me demo on their own models in the past. When I say, well, a darker shadow here would really, really increase contrast. And they're like, I don't see how I could make it darker without, like, making it look weird. And I'm like, okay, you want me to demo? That kind of thing. So you can't take up a lot of time of everybody, of the artists, because a lot of people are trying to talk to them. But, 2 to 5 minutes, pretty easy. Yeah, right now I know you're getting stuff out for your game. Yeah, and that's not what you want to ask for critique on. Okay, so depending, because if you want speed paint technique, if you want speed paint tips, then talk to people who are good at speed paint. But if you always want to bring your best model. Like a lot of these classes that you may take at ReaperCon, some instructors will kind of ask, what level are you at? And it's really helpful if you bring your best model and say, this is the best I've done. Because that tells us instantly where you are. And we can see then if it's your best model, but we can see where you're struggling, we can see where you're at, we can see what techniques you're trying and what techniques you're succeeding with. So all of that. I didn't know this was going to turn into a ReaperCon chat, but hey, ReaperCon's coming, so why not? We usually end up having a stream where we talk about like getting better at competition, taking feedback. Well, I guess this is that stream. But yeah, so one second. Yeah, when you bring a model, it's way easy, and your brain is like, some people will bring a model that's full of faults they know because it lessens the impact, right? They already know that, so they can say, oh yeah, I know that already. But when they do that, I'm like, well, why didn't you fix it? So what I really, if you bring something to me for critique, what I want you to do is to have gotten it as far as you can get it on your own. And when you've gotten it that far, and you really can't see any flaws, that's when critique can be a really useful thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and some painters can do that better than others because it's like bots, there are different like types of, mental types of painters. And some painters execute amazingly, but they can't really break stuff down as easily. And some are hyper analytical like me, and I can break down and see the steps that somebody took. Like, part of that is training, because when I started teaching myself to paint, there wasn't any video or anything online. There was just like the Yahoo group, the Mini Painter Yahoo group. And so everything was described, but nothing, to see somebody do something, you had to be in the same room with them. And so I learned to just look at a paint job and try to dissect how did they get there. That's why I ask you guys, like, if you're trying to improve, one of the things that you can do that is very useful and teaches you this skill is to look up a really well painted model that you really like, that you can still get a copy of, or you have a copy of, that's done by one of your favorite painters. Then just try to paint it by just looking at the picture. Don't look for how-to videos, don't do anything like that. Try to just copy the paint job. And that'll teach you to start get you on this process of being able to kind of look at something and see the steps that you would take to get there. Yeah. Well, that's Jess. Right. Well, Jess was a pro. But that's pretty cool when you get direct feedback from Jess Goodwin. Yeah, you feel pretty good about that though. That's a big feather. That's a big step. When you can get a real pro to like give you honest feedback like that gives you they hand you the tools, right? They're handing you the tools and they're saying, go and make the thing. Here's the tools. Go make the things. So that's great. But I do find that some really excellent painters just don't have the analytical mindset to analyze how they do everything. And that makes a big divide. That's why I think some great painters are not great teachers, because they can't break it down. Like, that's not where their strengths lie. So I think that you could still have some amazing painters who know their stuff, but maybe they can't break down all that stuff exactly for you. But they might be able to still give you good feedback from a different perspective. So, oh, good. Nice, Hyper Bunny. Nice. Yeah, that's good. That's actually a great way. Yeah. Because then when she does hesitate, then you're like, well, this is what I did. And then she can learn that technique. Yeah. Yeah, it takes, I think a lot about, obviously I think a lot because I have a brain that thinks a lot. That's just what I do. And so I think about this stuff a lot. And when I'm teaching, I think before I did my first color theory class, man, you guys should have seen how much crazy thinking was going on. Because you got to figure out how to, even for this layering video, like I'm doing a basic layering video, I'm putting more time into figuring out the most concise way to put it, to like express the breadth of what you can do with layering, and then what the most concise way to show somebody the basics is, right? Because that matters. And especially with YouTube, it matters. And it is a different skill set. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to really sit down and think about it. I'm going to start putting gold on here because, well, you know, I can babble at you just as well when I'm basing my gold, right? I like to gesture with my hands a lot, so if I get onto a chat with you guys and I get all excited, then I tend to not be painting on the model. But you know, I can chat painting on the model too, dang it. Yeah. Well, and we get that a bit at Archon too, bots, because you know, like Bobby Jackson's there and Gene Van Horn and Julie Guthrie and Bob Rodolphe and all the people. Those are the sculptors are there on Artist Row too. You can just walk up to one of them, show them a project that you're working on or that you did, and get feedback if you want, you know, or if you're having trouble with a technique. Like the sculptors are there, just like same as painters, and the sculptors are usually sad because they don't have as many people bugging them as painters. So the sculptors would love for you to bug them more. And of course, we now have a good cross section of people, both who are sculpting in green, Bob and Julie, and Andy Pieper's done a lot in green as well. And then people who have embraced digital, Bobby, Jean, Jason, Christine Van Patten. So really at that point you've got the tools to learn anything with sculpting, just talking to the sculptors at ReaperCon. Yeah, that's very useful, bots. Yeah, the biggest problem with newer painters is they don't know what to ask, right? They honestly they don't have enough experience to know what to ask. So it's a gift to be at that level where you know what you need, right? You know what tool, you know you need a tool, a specific tool that does this. But a lot of newer painters don't have that yet. They don't know, they know they need something, but they have no idea what. So, and I talk to a lot of basic and intermediate painters. Oh. Yeah, that's too bad, Hyperbuddy, that he won't change his mind. All right, well. He'll end up getting some value from some of the earlier classes and no value probably from the later classes. But some people are just going to do that. It makes me sad, too. Both because they're going to get a lot less value out of their classes and because that means that other people won't get to take those classes. But, you know, it is what it is. With your friend being intimidated, I mean, just encourage her. And she's newbie, so say it's cool. I mean, if she's intimidated by classes, tell her just go to YouTube, honestly. And then once she's got, like, her chops at YouTube, where she can kind of learn in the privacy of nobody judging her, then say, okay, well, you've gotten really good, but, you know, the next step is to get actual live feedback from cool people. And it could be, if you can get her to come to ReaperCon, often that will get people to come out of their shell a little bit on that, because we're also friendly, right? We're also freaking friendly. I've been sitting here doing stuff. Hey, you're the same age as me. High five. Bots. Yeah, you've got to care about it. Like I always tell people, love and time, love work and time, right? Because you've got to love it to keep you working at it, and then that keeps you. Then you just got to put it in the time. Love, work, and time, and that's the key to anything. And the big thing. And I got this actually from a Seth Godin book, and I really actually have thought a lot about it since then, because I feel like I'm a person who has many different interests, you know, has had many different interests over the course of my life, and sometimes I wonder if a lot of that was time wasting. But he does talk about how, you know, if you really listen to your gut, you know if you're not on the right road, right? As far as the thing that you're going to put your effort toward for the next whatever period of time. Like, you can tell if that thing maybe isn't a great fit for you, but maybe you still like it. But is it, if you're trying to find the things that really light you up in life, I'm kind of interested. This thing is interesting. Is that enough, right? He was talking about, I think it was his book, The Gap, where he talks about, what makes a person really, really good or excel at something versus a person who just becomes okay at it. But yeah, so it's like, to get as good as you knew you were on the road and you loved it, and so you spent the time and the effort on it, right? And going in and knowing that the journey will be longer and not immediate is useful. See, I don't believe in talent. My only definition that I will accept of talent is, I loved this stuff as a kid, so I did a lot of it, so I started out with a better grounding in it than most people when it came time to choose and actually execute in my life. Like, that's the only... I don't accept talent otherwise. Because you know what? You don't instantly get fine muscle coordination as a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old. You build it, same as anybody does. So that kind of thing. My eye for color is because I loved colors as a kid, and my mom encouraged me to do all sorts of art stuff with all sorts of different colors. And it was in my brain. It's also your personality. A lot of it is different personalities are just going to react different ways to different things. But I do not believe in talent. I think that talent is just the stuff the things you did as a kid that you were encouraged in or spent a lot of time doing have kind of set you up for success in certain things. And your brain, the way your brain works. Like, my brain is very strategic. And so I can look at a number of paths and choose, like, the most advantageous one with from my gut, which is not something that a lot of other people can do. So, like, personality and the way your brain works, those definitely do impact that. That's true. But yeah. But talent, as far as, that person is so talented, I could never do that, not true. Not true. But you'd have to love it enough, care about it enough to spend the time and the work, right? And when it comes to things like sports, obviously certain body types are more suited for certain sports, right? So you may not be able to get to the 100th percentile, but you might be able to get to the 90th or 95th. Or I should say the top 1% versus the top 5%. Yep. Yeah, but otherwise I totally agree. You've got to do the work. You've got to develop the muscle memory. But yeah, and everybody's brain is different. So the way you approach things is going to be different. So the way you think might set you up naturally to be good at a certain thing. I can see that. Just like a certain body type might set you up naturally to be good at a certain sport. So I could see that. I could see different brain types being more likely to succeed at a certain thing. But yeah, the talent versus skill thing is fascinating, and I am very firmly in the camp that believes that there is a great deal you can do with skill, that talent is very little, if even the way I define talent. It's just it's where you start. Talent is an overused word, yeah. You had an interest in it. I mean, I will never forget, like, I still remember the parent-teacher conference with my 5th grade teacher after we went to the circus. And she, like, was like, at this parent-teacher conference, she's showing my mom the picture that I drew after we went to the circus. She's like, the tigers look like tigers, you know, and she was like, her mind was blown. But that was because I loved animals, and I'd been trying to draw them since I was 3, right? And that, again, comes back to being encouraged. But yeah, maybe you just had really good hand-eye coordination. I don't know. But there's stuff I really just... There's something in that formative thing. Or maybe you just had an achiever brain. Like, I talk about how brains are different. Some people are just wired to, like, grab a thing and go for it. And then they just throw themselves into it, and they get very good very fast. So maybe that way. No. Yeah. No. Absolutely not. No. No, but you were trying, right? And trying is half of it. Like, the effort itself is half of it. Now here, I'm trying to do the gold rim on these belts, and it's not working so great. And that's because the belts got very darkened down by the lining. So if I really want the gold to stick out on this belt, I'm going to have to do some underpainting. So I'm going to go and grab some white. Yeah, everybody's brain works very differently. I do believe... Yeah, I mean, just keep encouraging her, Hyper. It sounds like maybe she hasn't had a lot of encouragement in the arts in her life, and a lot of us run into that. Because, you know, as kids, we're all encouraged to be artists, and then, you know, the minute we hit, like, 15 or 16 or 17, everybody switches gears on us completely and says, okay, you have to get a practical job. Right? It's like the total flip. It's a total flip. At least it was when I was growing up, but I think it still is for a great many people. Takes a very progressive parent to... a very open-brained parent to encourage their child in the arts as a career. Oh, yeah. Yes, everyone's... Yeah, for sure, Agent Marvel, for sure. Bye, Crowley! Yeah. That's cool, bots. Yeah, teachers can be... Good. At least you had the assertiveness to challenge her. I also was an assertive person in school and also challenged my teachers. But so many people aren't. So many kids aren't. Yeah, Hyper, it sounds like maybe just your friend hasn't had a lot of encouragement in that and feels like a lot of people come out of that type of upbringing believing they have no artistic talent. When in reality, you know, they've got as good a chance as almost anybody. But they didn't have that pre-work, right? That wasn't what they focused on in school or when they were kids for whatever reason. They maybe picked something else to be good at, right? Or maybe even they were good at it, but somebody in their family just did not encourage them in it. Or they got a really, really like scathing, like somebody was very dismissive of their art. So even if they were good at it, they still don't believe in themselves about it, and they still don't ever want to show it to people. Like, that can be a thing. I know a very, very talented artist who everybody is like, why the heck don't you go do X, right? But that person has faced a lot of criticism in their life from family and earlier in their life, and so they just cringe whenever they think about sharing their art with the world. Like, they just have that inner block that's just really strong. And so... You know, you can run into that too. And everybody's reasons are different, but... So getting this little white here is going to give us a little bit of a rim. Then we can put the gold over the top. And the gold is going to be brighter. It's going to show up a little better. Now you can see that edge. Yeah. Yeah. Right, yeah, the time it took to get there. And that's, some people will throw themselves at it with everything they have, and some people will fritter around and do a bunch of different things. I was one of those people. It's interesting that I've gotten as far in mini painting as I did, because, like, I was one of those fritter around people for a very long time. Same with my writing. Like, fritter, get distracted by other stuff. You know, and then, you know, there's just that catastrophic decade I had. The catastrophic decade between, like, yeah, it started around 2012, 2013. With all my medical shit and all the rest of it. But yeah, so that was distracting too. And that was kind of a shame because like I would have actually gotten my crap together, I think, if I hadn't hit all that surgery and stuff. But I mean, some people just are, especially a lot of us who have the brains that like to fritter around and look at a whole bunch of different things, and we have too many hobbies and all this kind of thing, right? We aren't focusing, and so it can take us longer to get there, but we can still get there. Like the minute I quit my credit bureau job and went full-time mini painter is the point where I got good enough to win competitions. And I didn't need to do that to get to that point. But I cut a lot of time off of the time it took to get me, a lot of days off of the time it took me to get there because I was putting so much of my effort into painting. So yeah, you can take the slow road or the fast road, depending on what you have to, the things, your life considerations and everything. You'll still get there. You're not hobbled just because you didn't spend, every waking moment doing this in, college or for the last decade. You just keep going. Yeah, that's me too, Sagebrush. Oh, auditory learner. I kind of wish I was. Like, I'm already thinking, I just realized that I'm going to have to order a book that I've been reading or listening to. I'm going to have to order it because I need to read it in order to get all the comprehension. It's just so annoying. Yeah. Just took them longer to get here. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's everybody's brain is different, right? That's why I know I harp on this, but Clifton Strengths, people. Clifton Strengths. I know it costs money, but dang. You will learn a lot about yourself and how you operate. And some of it you might not like. Like that's something that my strengths coach, she tells everybody. She's like, when you take your strengths, there's almost always one that you're just going to go, huh, and not like it. And you're like, no, certainly this is wrong. It's got to be wrong. Then you just give it time and you're just like, oh, this is so right. Gosh dang it. Why couldn't I have something useful like activator? Everybody wants activator and focus, by the way. Those are the Clifton strengths that everybody wants. Activator because it's like, it's a get her done kind of skill. And focus is also a get her done kind of skill, but it's the one that lets you really focus down and just put the blinders on and just get her done. I do not have activator, but I have focus. Activator is also cool because it activates other people. You can help other people get stuff done. But yes. Oh, nice. You started reading Hemingway? Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about going back and rereading. I love C.J. Cherryh, as Turgeon already knows. One of my favorite science fiction authors, and periodically I go back and reread the first series I ever got from her, which is the Chain Air series, which is best described as a furry safe space opera, but is actually much cooler than that. And also her Foreigner series. I'm thinking about going back and revisiting those. I owe some of my writing style to her. There we go. Alrighty. We got all that blocked in. Oh, we need the sleeve. We almost forgot the sleeve. Yeah, it'll just take you longer to get there. If you let yourself be distracted. But, I mean, some brains need that stuff too, because some brains need a rest, right? Some brains need to work really hard for a very brief period of time and then rest and go and do something else. And that is a strength in itself. It may not be the strength we want, but the only thing I usually say is try to be aware when your distractions are actually like you sabotaging yourself. Because as long as your distractions are things that you honestly care about and really want to put time into, you're good. But if you really want as your top priority, for my example, do I really want to be a writer? But I let all these other things distract me. Those other things were important to me too, but were they as important as publishing my first book? And the answer really was no, they weren't. I should have been spending more time on my books and not letting myself get distracted. But I had a lot of fear around working, actually publishing. I had a lot of fear about putting my book out there and whether people would like it. Just a lot of like subconscious fear going on. It took me a long time to realize that the part of me that would derail and that meant to sit down and write and then never would, that part was all fear-based. And once I realized that, I got kind of mad, and that's when I started really working with myself on trying to get past that. And thus I have a book out now, and soon a second one. So for everybody who is infinitely distractible like me, I always say, like, take a moment here and there, every month, every week, every whatever, and just take a couple of quiet moments with yourself and ask yourself what's most important to you right now. And ask yourself if your life is lined up to support that. And if it is, you are awesome. And if it is not, then ask yourself, what's like one little thing I could do to maybe make this work for me a little bit more, right? The lady whose talk I was listening to yesterday, who I like, the mindset lady, what she did, and she's very clever. Dang, I can tell she actually like figured some of this stuff, like thought a long time about this stuff. But she's just like, if you have a distraction and you know it, make it harder to get to. If you even put one barrier between yourself and your big distractor, your brain will get bored and it'll just say, oh, okay, well, that's too hard. It's like, if you want to exercise consistently, make sure all your exercise gear and shoes are like all right where they need to be at the right time of day. Things like that. But it goes the other way too. Like if she's like, I used to just sit down and start flipping through the channels on my TV when I got home from work. She's like, so then I hid the remote. I put the remote somewhere like upstairs. And she's like, so I come in and my brain wants to sit down and flip through the channels, but there's no remote. Well, that's too much of a pain in the butt. So I actually went in and prepped dinner. So things like that, little tiny life hacks like that can help you. For me, for my dieting, it was, or for my mind, for my lifestyle change, for my, eating, it was removing the foods that I'm really triggered to eat, either removing them entirely or just putting them in a place where it took effort to get them out. Or it would take time, like freezing them so that I would have to wait for them to thaw to eat them or something like that, And that worked really well, like, honestly. Or not having them in the house. When I was doing my my initial weight loss with keto, that was very much I am no longer having X in the house. If you want it, you can buy it. Keep it out of my sight. Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna read this. Gotta catch up. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Yeah, the XKC. Yeah. The XKCD guy used to make himself reboot his PC every time he switched. Yep. You couldn't, Couldn't just hop over to Reddit in the middle of writing. Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, hubby sounds like he has a trigger around that, and he just needs to put something between himself, make it harder. Nice. Oh, that's really funny. Although, like I said, like everybody's, especially like the ADHD seems to be really different from person to person. Like, because all our brains are different, I have to assume. So yeah, so like maybe you just had like great focus and retention, but your focus was subject to interference, right? Unless you could really tighten down, or maybe you just learned to deal with it early, bots. I mean, dyslexia is interesting though, that you only just realized you had it. So I'm doing a gold edge around the book here. You can just see how I'm doing that. Just filling this all in. It is a bit dark because I'm going over the blue, but that's all right because this is in shadow. So I don't want to put white underpainting here on the underside of the book like I did on the belt to make the gold stand out. And the reason is that this is in shadow. It's going to have very minimal highlighting, but it needed to have something. So I'm still doing the gild on it. Hold on. Bloop, bloop. Trying to get to all of this. But yeah, that whole making yourself reboot your computer, that's a really good one. I might have to start using that one. Although usually, once, for me, and I think for a lot of writers, you just gotta, if I make myself open the manuscript, I start working on it. It's getting past that initial thing where you open up your computer and you maybe, I've learned that it's really important what I leave up, like on my screen. Like if I leave my browser open on my screen, that's dangerous. Then I'm going to get distracted. But if I put my books up, like if I load up my book and leave that on the top, leave it open right in front of me, so the first thing when I flip open my laptop, there's my book, that works. Or if I just have the blank screen and I know what I'm going to do, because I am good enough not to like open the browser if it's not really accessible. And gild to the back side of this, but leave some of it blue. Introduce a boundary that actually isn't sculpted there, but I'm going to pretend that it is anyway. But yeah, that kind of life hack stuff can really save you. Like, especially if you find yourself, you know, again, this is only if you find yourself getting really frustrated with yourself, like you really want to work on X, like you really want to paint, and yet every night it seems like other things just interfere. Then it's time to kind of sit down with yourself. Like I said, take a few moments, just one evening or one morning, whenever you have that time. Over lunch is one of my favorites. And just think about it. Kind of make a list of stuff that's distracting you in the evening or whenever. And try to think about how you could make those things like harder to get at so that you're more likely to do the thing that's important to you. Or maybe you streamline it a little bit. Like I said, like for me, it's working out. So I always take my walk after supper, and it puts off, it cuts into my painting time. So if I'm going to do that, I need to have all my workout clothes all ready, and I need to like have my stretching, the stuff I use for stretching, laid out, and where I can just walk into the room, do my stretches, and go, and then I can get my walk done in a lot less time. So yeah, I'm going to get some lining down there too because I've just been painting this over. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer, Hyper. But it sounds like you had a good process for tests. That's cool. Got my brown liner here. I'm going to put a little water in it because we've been talking for a while. So thin it down a little bit. Again, a reminder that I will be working on my own stuff tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. And we'll be working on orc more. We'll be putting in more colors. I'll probably be working on the face. Face, maybe the chest and arm. It depends on what I feel like. And it's twitch.tv/paintingbig. Oh, hey, and I have an actual YouTube address now, by the way, Quindy. So we may have to change or is our YouTube? Twitch. Yeah. So my YouTube is actually at Painting Big now. Like they gave personalized addresses. They gave me a personalized address not long ago. So if you go and you search YouTube for Painting Big, 2 words, and you click on my thing and you look up at the address to get to my channel, you will see that I am actually YouTube/Painting Big. Ah, East of the Sun. East of the Sun by A.E. Becker. Here, let me flash the pretty cover at you so you want it more. Here. I can't put it in your hand, but I can flash the pretty cover. Pretty cover, pretty good. This is the hardback, but honestly, the trade paperback is pretty too. And to be honest, there we go. East of the Sun, A.E. Becker. This is the cover. Ah, yeah. That makes sense, bots. Yeah, that's very cool. You are lucky. Oh, I blorfed. I got gold on my blue. Tisk tisk, Anne. Well, it did remind me that I needed to get gold on these little snap things. But now I need to line that and fix it in the future. Yeah, I'm glad that I do not have dyslexia. As a writer, or as an aspiring writer, it would have made it much harder. Alrighty, so at least I have that lined out now. I can fix it. Yay, Quindy! Woo! Yeah, youtube.com/@paintingbig. Yeah, I just noticed that yesterday when I was over on my site because I was linking it in my author stuff. And now I don't have to say. Yeah, now it all lines up. I'm all branded. Look at how branded I am. Except for my website for my author stuff because that's a different brand. Whee! But it's still Anne. Yeah, but Sagebrush, if you pick up the book, let me know. You can read it for free in Kindle Unlimited if you want to do ebook. And I need to what is it? Is it ribbons galore for getting ribbons for ReaperCon, guys? I forget. I'm gonna put this right up on my. For badge ribbons. Stock ribbons, custom ribbons. But I need a badge ribbon. Badge ribbons. There we go. Yay! Yeah, I need to do an East of the Sun one for people who have who've bought my book. Okay, thanks Hyper Bunny. Thanks Quindy. Oh, yep. I think, yeah. I've had those moments too, though. Ah, cool, cool. Excellent, Sagebrush. Yeah. Hey, every sale helps. Every sale helps Amazon know that people actually are buying my book. And if you actually leave a review, if you enjoy it, that also helps hugely. Hugely. I appreciate those reviews so much. Even if you can only leave a star rating, that's fine. I don't expect anybody to write novels. But when you do leave a written review, man, it really helps. But any review helps too. Just the number of reviews helps. You guys all know if you've shopped on Amazon, you always look at the review rating and the number. I do anyway. And then I usually read a review or two just to see. I'm waiting for... Oh, I'm going to be very interested to see when West of the Moon comes out later this month. Because I'm doing all that promotion stuff. Interested to see if I get a bunch of new reviews off of that. Planning to up my Amazon ads too. Interesting, Christodoma. That's funny. Bringing your copy for signing. Awesome. Yeah. I should. I'm going to try my hardest, guys, to have copies of West of the Moon, the new book, when we're there. I'm really trying hard. I don't know if my cover artist is going to have the cover art done in time for the hardcover. And the big thing is, like, will Amazon get me the soft cover fast enough? Because they're notorious for, when you are like publishing through them, they're notorious for their slow print rate. When you're ordering author copies, they do not prioritize you. But I mean, I also love it when you buy it off Amazon because it gives us a better sales rank, and then Amazon shows it to more people, and that's really important in organic, getting organic reach. Yeah, you can read it. I get a little percentage of the money from the Kindle Unlimited plot thingy. So like, yeah, if you just want to read it or check it out, you can totally get it and download it in Kindle Unlimited. If you read the whole thing, I think I get like $1.90. So, you know, I still get a little money. Still get a little money from it. But yeah, I've been a little surprised. It very much varies by genre as far as Kindle Unlimited and where the audience is. A lot of Kindle Unlimited is romance. Seems to be a ton of romance readers, and my genre is not as often, like, not as popular in that, but whatever works. If you want to actually own the ebook, I will also be putting it on sale when West of the Moon comes out. So it will be on sale from around, I think around the 22nd to the 29th, so that I can get more people in, and then the next book will be out, and that book finishes the story that this book begins. So. All right, so you've lined all that book, and that makes everything stand out really nicely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to try. Oh, colored paper help. Interesting. That's very interesting, Hyper Bunny. Yeah, I do love, I mean, come on, I'm the person who paid extra to get a hardcover made so that I could have that, you know, here. Because there's just something nice about having the book. I really wanted to have my first book in hardcover. My first 2 books will be in hardcover. After that, it depends. Maybe. But I kind of like having a hardcover, so I'm like, I read a lot on Kindle these days because I just don't have a lot of room or extra bookshelf space right now. But I do have quite a decent collection of books still. And when it's a favorite author or a favorite series, I do buy actual book. All right, I think we've got all of our little doodads and everything figured out. And I'm doing just a little bit of lining around the edge of some of this gold that didn't really get lined. Yeah, the only problem with doing the hardcovers is that Ingram Spark does not pay as much as Amazon, so I actually get very little per copy of the hardcover, but it's still beautiful, and so I'm still happy about it. And apparently people are buying it because Ingram is sending me checks. Alrighty, so just getting a little bit of lining, just making sure that everything is standing out from each other really nicely. Just that little line, you can see how that crisps up your details. Yeah, when we travel, when traveling, I load up my Kindle too. Sometimes I own a book both in print and in Kindle when it's a favorite author. I think I'm going to make the keys silver, but I'll make this ring brass. There we go. I think otherwise we're pretty good. I still need to figure out accent colors for like the little feathers in the jars and the scroll case. I've mentioned this before. The problem with her though is that a lot of her accent colors, they're all in the back, right? There isn't really any room for accents on the front of her. So I'm going to make her glasses because they look like kind of steampunk glasses to me, or monocle, like you know, artificer glasses. They're really thick. So I am going to make them brass. This is a really nice sculpt. The face is really well done. And every part of this model is really well done. Bobby did a crazy good job on this. And yeah, okay, so the little piece, the earpiece is actually going back in here, but you can't see it, so I don't have to worry about it on that side. So interestingly, I had thought about starting my Cozy Fantasy series and getting a little bit of time in on that book before I went back to the next Bear Kings book. But my brain informed me yesterday that it did not think that my Cozy Fantasy series was ready to start yet. And that means that I am going to be starting on book 3 like Monday probably. I have a lot of Patreon to do this month to make sure that I get everything done before ReaperCon, but I still will have writing time. But yeah, I actually think I have the first 2 chapters of North of the Wind. I tried to start it a long time ago, but it was way too soon. I needed to have the first 2 books like pretty much in final form first. So my brain told me that it was not time yet. But now I can go back and dig those out. All right, so lining to bring it all together and make it stand out. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I was all about the stories when I was a kid. I did read the encyclopedia here and there, so I found it interesting. Because we had encyclopedias on our shelves in those days. There was no internet. And we're going to line the top here, make sure that it's nice and tight. Dogfather, a minimum of, I would say at this point, a minimum of 5, because I've got the first 4 books and the prequel to book 4. The prequel to book 4 is actually what started this whole thing. Because it was originally a novella that I wrote that I turned into a short story and submitted as my entry for to get into the Viable Paradise writing workshop, VP, out in Martha's Vineyard. And it got me in out of hundreds, possibly thousands of submissions. But even the writers there all knew, like they could tell that it was meant to be a much longer story. And so I do need to write that story. So it's a book essentially. Everything from here on out will be pretty much standalone books, but that one is a prequel. So there's East of the Sun and West of the Moon, which will both be out by the end of this month. And then there is North of the Wind, which is book 3. And we'll tie up some of the loose ends, a couple of the dangling loose ends from book 2. And then there is South of the Stars, which will tie up another couple of dangling loose ends from book 1 and 2. And then there's the prequel. And that's the immediate, I know I have stories for this. However, use Nomad to sculpt to make minis. That's cool. That's cool, bots. However, that said, I did at one point kind of write down ideas, just brainstorm ideas, and I got at least 20 books. I think probably it wouldn't be like that many, because, and that's just extra books that are set in this world, right? So concern not necessarily there is an overarching plot if I care to develop it. like a big plot arc. That bits of it are buried in book 1 and 2. But yeah, it really depends. Dogfather, honestly, what it depends on is by the time I do book 4 and book 5, how well is the series doing? How much, like, are there people really interested in the series? Are there enough people really interested in the series? Maybe I do book 6. But if the series, like, just kind of hasn't taken off, like, if there's not really an audience for it, then I might not do, like, I might, who knows? I might put it down for a while and work on something else. Because what I'm doing is trying to build a readership and visibility so that people can discover my books, like, and so that I can get your writing out there, right? And it's a big challenge when you're an indie starting from zero. But I mean, there is such a thing of maybe you wrote your first books because it's what you absolutely adore, but there isn't a lot of readership out there for it. Like, sometimes that happens. So I have to be ready for if, like, I get to book 6 and I'm still just kind of trundling along at one sale every 3 days, or whatever, which is unlikely, but it could happen. But it really depends. If people glom on and really like the books and recommend them to other people, and we get some momentum, then I'll keep writing them. I mean, I do have an idea for, like, a trilogy on the Trolls, for sure. And there's another book for sure. There's another couple books for sure. And I don't know. I would say 8 to 10. How about that? Is that conservative estimate? Is 8 to 10? Like, if you look at the characters, if you just, like, kind of, like, look at the characters and you think about, wow, I wonder what happens to that character. That's the kind of, like, how I judge it. Is, like, if I look at a character and I'm like, this character still has loose ends, and I haven't tied up this yet, then that's however many books it takes to tie up those loose ends. But, I mean, this is why you get people like, and J.K. Rowling is the exception. Like, she had a certain number of books planned, and by God, she finished that arc in those books. But in general, a lot of writers will say this is a trilogy, and then they'll find out it's a pentalogy, and they've got 5 books. Or this is a pentalogy, it's going to actually, and then it goes even longer, right? I think Wheel of Time was supposed to be 7 or 8, wasn't it? And then it got bigger, because it just took too long. It took so long to wrap up all those, because you're trying to close the arcs, right, as a writer. But you also tend to just go bounding through your manuscript when you write, like gleefully throwing arcs here and there. Yeah, I've mentioned before that there is one character in these 2 books that like is loosely based, like one aspect of his personality inspired a character, like a person I know who has this particular quirk about him that I used for this character, but everything else is different. Like, so I'm most likely with character creation, it mostly comes from the ether, to be honest. All writers have archetypes, character types that they really like to write, and I'm no exception. You just try to change it up enough to make everybody unique. I do get very into the world building, but it's a very organic process for me. Like, the world grows up to be the kind of world I need for these characters to have this kind of adventure, if that makes sense. And in the case of East of the Sun, which is very strongly based on Norwegian folklore and fairy tales, I needed that kind of world, but I needed this kind of adventures, these kind of characters to have this sort of adventure in it. So for me, I think it's very organic. Although I'll always start with a seed, but the seed is somewhat different. Like, some of my urban fantasy that I started, that I got book 1 roughed out on during a NaNoWriMo a couple years ago. That urban fantasy started because I had a character that was so strong in my head, I had to write her. And I just did. I wrote, and it just went like crazy fast. And like at the end of 60 days, I had a 75,000 word novel. Like, but I need to, there's a lot of rewriting to do on that sucker. So sometimes, and I've found this in my short stories too, for a while there, because I'm very bad at plotting. World building and characters are my strengths. Plotting is not my strength. I had to learn to plot. I had to put a lot of effort into it. So yeah, plotting, definitely, I usually don't get an idea for a plot necessarily. I tend to get an idea for a character, very strong, or a world idea. But yeah, while I was doing all that plotting practice, I just came to realize, like, I was doing short stories because I could then execute a plot in a much shorter period of time, right? So it was more efficient to kind of internalize how plotting worked. And during that, I realized that my stories always come to me either with a greater world idea, accompanied by a problem with that world, or a character that's just so strong I have to write it. Like they will not get out of my head. Like their name will just pop into my head, and it will be a great name, and I will have done no work on it. It'll just come. So that's what I mean when I say with Queenmaker, which is my cozy fantasy that I want to get up and running at some point while writing the Bear Kings. For that, my brain just told me, you haven't thought about this enough yet. And that probably means I need to actually sit down and do some work on character. Time check, no rush. Yeah, time check. I am an intuitive writer. So, okay, Hyper, I went back and forth. Oh, Tolkien, yeah, Tolkien, yeah. Well, because you just start writing the story. Tolkien had that one story in his head, and he just told it. And it took X length, it took this long to tell it, and then he realized his book was 3 times too long, right? So he had to break it up. His publisher probably did. When I was a kid, I was a pantser. Then, when I realized I was absolute crap at plotting, I got very, very into plotting. I learned from screenwriting. I took screenwriting books to heart because they tend to have a very structured way to think about plot that helps me, because once I've got that structure, I can spin infinite things off of it. So it's never just a template I lay down. It's always like, okay, I just remember, okay, I should have, something needs to happen here, right? But so then I thought I was a planner. But then as I progressed, like as now, as I came back and started, finishing these books and writing, rewriting the second half of the second book, I realized that what I really am is at heart, I am a pantser. I mean, what they call now is an intuitive writer, which I like that term a lot because it's how pantsers write, right? You're using a lot of your intuition and your gut knowledge of how a good story works and how characters work, right? So I am an intuitive writer, but I cannot start a book until I have a certain amount of material knowledge about world, characters, and what's going to happen. So I don't like pantser. Yep, that's a writer term in writer world. Yeah, pantser and planner. But in reality, most people are on the continuum between those two things. So for me, yeah, I'm an intuitive writer who likes to mind map. I don't actually use a structured outline. I just sit down and mind map ideas. And I'll just spring off of those ideas again and again in all sorts of different directions until I've got what I want. Like with the Cozy Fantasy series, I just sat down and started to write, like, just springboard off of, okay, well, this is Mel. This is her situation. This is what she believes and thinks. This is her world. This is the basic foundation knowledge about it. Then this is what happens to her. This is the thing that she realizes isn't true. This is here and here. But then by the time I was done with that, I had like 3 pages of mind mapping, and I realized that I could actually split all those reveals and discoveries up until it was 5 books. So now what I need to do is do a little bit more work into Mel as a character, her challenges, and look, I already have the plot and the reveals, and I've got the world, but I need to work on Mel now and her supporting cast. And I'll do that via mind map. I'll just do Mel, and then I'll write down, you know, what kind of person is she? What are some examples of stuff that she's done in the past, right? What does she regret? Like, what does she wish she was, right? And why? You know, that kind of thing. Nothing is a viable project out the gate, Hyper. Nano is the way to get the words on the page. Then you gotta edit it. Then you gotta make it good. Like, editing is where the real work of writing happens. I mean, my stuff when it comes out of my head, like I said, I wrote that urban fantasy novel. I really like it. I really like the character. It's got a lot of funny in it. It's got a lot of humor. And I really love the characters. And so I'm like, all right, I need to get this working. But I didn't do enough work on my magic system in advance, so now I need to go and edit pretty heavily. Nothing you'd want to edit? Yeah. Try mind mapping if you haven't. If you're a pantser, like, honestly, I think mind mapping is the most intuitive, friendly way to, it's not an outline, but like, look at your books and ask yourself where your weak point is. Is it character? Is it plot? Is it setting? And whatever your weak point is, before you start your next Nano project, just write down like that character's name or the magic system, you know, like magic system, and you know, or plot, or you know, world, whatever, and just brainstorm. Like, because brainstorming's fun, right? You get all these ideas, you don't have to use any of them. But what I found is that doing that mind mapping really crystallizes my idea of the book, and if I have that great idea, you know, that crystal idea of the book, I can write it, and then it doesn't take as much revision. So that's what I would do if you're interested in that. If you really want to get something that's editable, right? Try it. Maybe give it a try. Because I love it. Because I'm just making little circles. I use different colored markers. I use good paper. I use Bristol cardstock, and I just make all these brightly colored mind maps. And it's super fun. So Reaperland is on today. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm going late, but I started late, so meh. We got at least our gold mapped in, so now we can see her colors are really coming together here. I am missing some red. I really feel like I do need some red, so at least the feathers back here are going to be red. And that does argue for like doing the strawberry blonde hair instead of the brunette. Or if I do go brunette, I want to go with a heavy red tone. So I'm thinking about that. I don't want to really go, if I went redhead, I'd go auburn, I think. I don't want to go really bright. But yeah, I'll think about it. Strawberry blonde is hard because you're really kind of doing an orangey blonde, reddish blonde, and it can be difficult. So we're still out on that, but she needs something like, and maybe it is actually if I do like a design in red, like a simple freehand, like diamonds or chevrons or something here, and then do it like a trim in that. That would be enough. That would be enough to bring that color up because she does have really rosy skin, so it would bring up those red tones. I just feel like she needs something. She's a little boring right now color-wise. I feel like I want to punch her up a little bit, and I'm not quite there on how I want to do it. But yeah, I go back and forth on the hair color. I go back and forth. But right now I'm just really... Yeah, I mean, red hair is like... Yeah, I'm about to do a Patreon thing on that, Roger. It's going to... Maybe not this month, but next month, I think, is when the red hair is going to come out. If I didn't choose it for this month, I might have chosen it for this month. I've made a big outline of a bunch of Patreon topics yesterday. But yeah, so... Yeah, my color is always based off of my overall color scheme, Valandar. So, like... Before, I felt like I needed more brown to solidify and ground her and warm her up. But then when I put this brown in, even though we made it very reddish, then it satisfied that. So now I don't feel like we need brunette hair. So now I'm like looking at it, I'm like, maybe she has to be a redhead. Maybe she just has to be, or maybe I will go for a strawberry blonde. And I'll start red, but I'll bring it all the way up to blonde. That may be what I do. Because I really like those redheads that are kind of that light carrot top that goes all the way to blonde when they get sun bleached. I really like that hair color. I don't think I've ever painted that. So maybe we'll do that. But yeah, I always choose hair color based off what the rest of the model needs. And now that we have this gold blocked in, I really have an idea of what the rest of the model needs. And like we said before too, we're also going to do a red bookmark, right? So we'll do all that stuff. Yep. Yeah, and that can kill your enthusiasm. Yeah, see, bots, there are a lot of writers. Yeah, there are a lot of writers who do that. They get all caught up in the details, and really what you got to do is say, well, okay, you only need 2 levels deep. I'm not doing a writing cast. I'm really not. But you only need two levels deep. You need to say how it works. You have to know how it works, roughly. And then you have to know what happens when it breaks. And that is from John Scalzi, who's a very good writer himself. But it's two levels of depth. Maybe 3 if you really want to go there, if you want to have a level of complexity. Like, how does it work for the greater world? How does it affect an individual's life? And what happens when it breaks? That's all you know. Well, and nobody writes like Tolkien anymore. Like, yeah, it's okay. I got it. And, you know, you could have a modern day Tolkien, but he'd have to, like, be writing with a more modern style. Like, the danger of doing all that work in the beginning is that it keeps you from writing your story. It's much more effective to, like, get what you need to know to start book 1, and then use your extra time around your writing to flesh out stuff as you need it. If you ever wanted to write a book, that's what you probably want to do for your brain. Yeah, usage. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, right. And in that case, you need to set that up, right? But that's the only set of details you need, right? You don't need all the stuff around the banking system. You just need to know the key thing, and then what happens when the key thing isn't, right? And how could that happen? And as long as you drop the clues for the first 2, then your readers get the reward of, like, you know, that reveal. It's challenging. Writing is hard. Writing is as hard as painting in different ways. Problem with writing is you have to train your brain, and with painting you train your brush hand. I think the brush hand seems easier to me. My brain is a little bit too far out there. Anyway, let's cap it. This was a nice long Friday stream. I definitely did a little extra. That's fantastic. Maybe I can end a little bit early next week on something. But this has been fun. Hopefully we didn't bore you with all the writing talk. Sorry, paint people. Sorry. I know many of you are just watching at work anyway and just kind of listen to the chat, as it were. So hopefully some of this has at least been interesting. But yeah, so sweet. And I'll see some of you tomorrow on my stream when we're working on Orc and comic book style, which I'm excited about because it's really turning out cool. Alrighty? Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Quindy, for herding the cats. And I will talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow, and if not, on Monday. Bye-bye.